Welcome to Public Forum, a community outreach program produced at North Idaho College on the shores of Lake Coeur d'Alene. Featuring guests from around the globe addressing a wide variety of subjects, Public Forum serves to educate and enlighten. Please join host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart, in welcoming today's guest.
I am most pleased to welcome you to a two-part series. We do many of those where we have over 2 weeks a subject that is justified with more airtime. Our topic is peace in our hearts, homes, neighborhoods, nation, and world. And on part one, we're going to particularly talk about an organization that is here in North Idaho that really stresses this issue. And that organization is Diaconia. And we have 3 guests that will talk about the organization and how it was founded. And they are sponsoring a 3-month program or a curricula of studies on this topic of peace. So I welcome to the program, first of all, is Mark Harbman, who is the chair of this organization. And Mark, welcome to the program. We're very pleased to have you here. And next to him is Kathy Reed. She is the social services director at a very wonderful charitable organization called St. Vincent de Paul, and she's also a member of this organization that I just identified. Kathy, welcome to the program. And I'm also equally pleased to have Lidwin Durney, who is the founder, one of the co-founders of Diaconia, and another one of my friends was the other co-founder, and we've known you a long time and appreciate all your great work that you do, and welcome to the program. And as always, I'm pleased to have our regular panelist, Erna Reinhardt, who's the Director of Public Relations at North Idaho College, and Erna shall commence today's questioning.
Welcome to all of you, and it's a privilege to have you here and share with us and our viewers what it is that your organization does for our community and maybe in other communities as well. I'm going to start with Mark. I would like for you to explain to us what the word means, diaconia, which is the name of your organization. Where did that word come from and what does it mean?
It comes from the Greek language and it simply means service. And we find that word used in other places. It's the word deacon, the word diaconate, and they're all related words having to do with a variety of forms of service.
And how does it apply to your organization?
We largely see ourselves as being a group that draws together the community around service, and service that recognizes that, in this case, peace is more important to us than the differences that we have, that we can come together, we can work together, and try to look beyond our differences, so and join together in service.
Great. And Lidwin, you are one of the founding members of this wonderful group. Tell us how long it's been here and what made you want to create this group?
Well, it is about 7.5 years ago that Christine Wald and myself, she is a good friend of mine, that we were walking around with the same concern. And that concern was like this. Why is it that in our community the various churches are all sitting on an island and not sharing resources, not coming together and be of service to the community? And so it took a while, and all of a sudden we started talking together about this. And so, of course, when you see a need and you ask the question, what can we do about it? So we decided to call some pastors together. There were about 5, I think, to begin with, and then see what would come out of it. And that's how it started.
And tell us a little bit about the different churches that are involved in the group.
There are churches that are always there in our meetings, and there are some who are supportive, but for some reason can't always be there. If we have the pastor coming or a representative, then of course we could do more, because then the pastor could go back to his church and talk about things that we have been discussing. But the Methodist Church is part of it, the Unity Church of North Idaho, the Lutheran Church of the Master, and the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints, First Presbyterian Church, St. Pius Catholic Church, St. Thomas Catholic Church, and the Baha'i Faith, and then also St. Vincent de Paul as a service organization. Lately, we also have been joined by two people from the Buddhist community, and I think that's about all.
That's wonderful. Go ahead.
Kathy, I'll start with you. And this indicates you are the director of social services, St. Vincent de Paul, but you, through that service there, how it fits perfectly in this organization because it's a service organization. Tell us your reaction and evaluation of bringing these together. And some of our viewers might think that from before we read the list that it would be only the Christian faith, but it does involve others now. So you are, I guess we could call it very ecumenical in your approach. So give us some of your evaluations and also your contributions to the organization.
Well, I came to the group because our organization has a foundation from the Catholic Church, but we are this group is open to all faith. Like Lidwin said, we want to draw together people to work for a common cause, and I work mainly with the homeless, and the group can give service. I mean, we're always looking for activities or ways that we can serve the community.
Thank you very much. Mark, you've been around, as Lidwin said, for now almost 8 years. Give us some examples of things you do together. We're going to save until next week the big project that's just underway now that your community is involved in with, I'd call it a workshop or sessions of developing. You have a booklet and a curriculum. But before we get into that next week, what are some of the things that you've done together? I know you've had some public gatherings and all, and how has this enriched the community, I guess, is the bottom line to my question.
Interfaith work is simply, it takes extra effort on all of our parts. It seems for those in local churches, so much emphasis is understandably involved with keeping that church's ministry active and alive and vital, and yet we can become those islands to which Lidwin referred. And in connecting together, it takes time, it takes effort to do that, but we really acknowledge that we really do share a common journey. Some of the language of that journey may be a bit different, some of the specifics of that journey may be a bit different, but it helps us to truly look outward. And when we look outward together, not only are we doing that in a way that draws the faith community together, but I believe it allows us to look beyond the faith community to our community and beyond.
Let's have some specific examples of projects. I'm very familiar with some of your projects, but I'd rather that come from you. Okay.
Probably going on 5 or 6 years ago, we had a gathering in the city park that celebrated diversity, and we had a diverse group of folks that were involved in leadership and participation, open to the public in a very public place.
That involves speaking and music?
Music and speaking, and we had individuals from Christian community, the Jewish community, and beyond. So a very interfaith sort of event. And saying that really we are different, and yet we are one as a part of the human race here in Coeur d'Alene.
Give us another example.
We put together a program probably about 4 years ago now, or 5, that we brought in a speaker from the state of Montana to address the white supremacy movement, the white Christian identity movement, and how it is that movement can really subtly infiltrate our faith communities in our neighborhoods, and just some of the talking points of that movement. And that was a fairly significant event. There was a pastor's luncheon at the noon time, and then in the evening there was a conference that addressed that particular concern.
that it was a serious challenge, and that you wanted to make sure that your membership understood how that could be kind of, in a subtle way, creep into some possible situations.
Yes, and in our faith, many churches try to understand for themselves what it means, the balance between spirituality and mission and justice, and recognizing that we really put feet to our faith as we address issues within our churches, our community, and our world.
And Lidwin, I think you were involved, and then I'll go back to Erna, but I think you were involved in another project that I know that your good friend, Chris Wald, was kindly spearheading some years ago because of a activity in the community that involved hate groups and that was foreign to all of your religious values. You came up with this idea that you would ask citizens and residents of our community to sign an ad. You had over 1,000 signatures. And tell us how you did that and how you spoke out. You didn't remain silent in the face of hate.
Well, we started out with the declaration. We came to that meeting, as Mark was talking about, and that was on the top of the advertisement.
It was a whole full-page ad in the paper, I believe.
Yes, but the joint declaration said, "We, the undersigned, have many differences of religious belief. Without seeking to blur or diminish those distinctions, we certainly affirmed this on which we all do agree." And then it said, "We believe that every human being is created in God's image, that God's love is freely offered to every person, and that it is contradictory to biblical belief to use the name of Jesus Christ to advocate either racial superiority or the deliberate mistreatment of any persons." And we had these kind of forms that people could put their names. Mm-hmm. And so all these names, we thought of having a gathering about 1,000 names, and we had more names than we could put on the advertisement.
And you had it done in a short period of time, so it was a very powerful message to the community that you were respecting people rather than remaining silent when some others were engaging in hate of certain people. I think one of the things, going back to Erna, is that's kind of like a creed for you. It's very, very powerful, and it's what you've stood for all these years. Erna Reinhardt.
Now that I've learned a little bit more about your organization, I am so impressed with the kinds of things that you do, and I think there's such a need for that. I think that so many times our faith communities, exactly like what you said, Ludwin, is what they are islands, and it's so much more powerful when you come together and reach across those beliefs and join forces to do something meaningful in our community. I want to ask each of you what it is personally that makes you want to be involved in this organization, and what has it meant to you as an individual? And we'll start with Kathy.
Well, I think the fellowship, we've gained and grown in friendship, those of us that have been meeting over the years, and some of us can come and then we might not be able to for a few weeks, and then we keep drifting back because there's that strong tie of fellowship. And it's also, we are all working together for common goals and in service.
Excellent. Mark? Sorry.
I really have, as a Christian, I have an Old Testament and a New Testament scripture that really kind of ground me right now. The Old Testament, familiar words from the book of Micah. What does the Lord require of you but to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with your God? Very grounding for me. And New Testament, very simply, Jesus' words, "Blessed are the peacemakers." And there would be those who would say, but it's not all that simple. And I agree it's not all that simple, but at the foundation it is. It is. And so that's what makes it work for me.
Excellent. And Lidwin?
Well, of course, first of all, it is the service. Coming together and looking at the needs in the community, and then see how we, with our churches together, can help. We have done that in several ways, but there came a moment that we said if we want to serve together, then we have to pray together. And so we started with coming together from time to time and have a service in different churches according to the customs of that church. And I have learned so much of each church, and they have enriched my own personal spiritual life. And so it is both ways. And when we are together and pray together, then we can go out in a better way, more inspired to serve.
I think that from the first half of our program, it's become very clear what your belief is. As you have separate and distinct some principles, or we call those belief systems, or in a very positive sense, the dogma of the different religions. But you're able to, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're able to continue your commitment and dedication to your different particular ways of looking at life and hereafter. But you have found a way, haven't you, to celebrate together without not having to give up what your particular individual beliefs are. And based on that, if I'm correct, Mark, would you share with us how, when you're together, the kind of things you can very much understand and communicate with one another without becoming so doctrinary that some don't feel comfortable to come to your gatherings?
I think part of the key to that is that the individuals from the various faith communities that are part of the group have a personality and a sense about themselves that they are not uncomfortable being around others of different perspectives, because it's very clear to us that there are some very real differences amongst the faith groups. I mean, if the list that Lidwin read, there simply are some differences, but the individuals who come from those faith groups are able to say, you know, this is a little bit uncomfortable for me maybe, but I appreciate the whole of what we're doing, and that's why I'm here.
And Lidwin, who's been involved from the very beginning, I think that your work together, it reaches into other components of the community, and it's, of course, it's all tied together, but maybe you'd share a little bit with our local human rights organization for human rights. You've worked with it. A couple of years ago at a banquet, human rights banquet, your organization presented the music and the prayer. So tell us a little bit about how you have, through this organization, been so eager to work with the human organization. And of course, the human rights organization has members in the different faiths that you're talking about.
Well, of course, in Coeur d'Alene, there is always this, for a long time, there was this big tension and with the hate groups. And we have been talking in our meetings very often, what will our reaction be? Should it be a reaction or an action? And we would like to, and we did, approach it not from a reaction point, because we are not a political organization, but from a religious point. And so we have had, like, after a parade, we would come together. And I can remember that one time there was a beautiful prayer service where Bill Wasmus spoke amongst others, and there were prayers, and there were a lot of people there who were saying, by being there, that they want to say by their prayers and also by their presence that they are not believing in hate, but that they accept every person, and every person as they are.
And finally, Kathy, before I go back to Erna, you too, as you've already said a minute ago, that you found such, I guess I could also include the word spiritual enjoyment in the friendship and in the relationships. How else do you think that such a positive work together has strengthened this community. And I don't mean just one town, I mean a larger area of our region.
Well, I think anytime people come together in understanding, it can only grow. It's kind of spreads out from a center, and I think there are a lot of people in this community that are with us in spirit. They just aren't able to attend our meetings, and maybe through this, through being here today, we can kind of put out the word that this is a good time to say we meet on the third Wednesday at 11:30 at St. Pius Church, and anyone who's interested in or who feels touched by anything that's been said today, Mark and Lidwin are excellent speakers for our organization, and I know that there's a lot of people in this community that feel that would like to come and be a part of us, and I mean I'm representing a service agency. And Mark actually is representing the Community Action Agency as well. And I think that you don't have to be representing your faith group so much as just coming to join together as a part of a group that really is interested in serving our community.
Thank you. And I would just add one more time to that St. Pius X Catholic Church is in northern Coeur d'Alene on Haycraft, and so that's where you always meet there. I had the privilege of doing that over the years a couple of times or 3 times, and working with you in some other projects. With that, we'll return to Erna Reinhardt.
We've touched a little bit on how diaconia, the kinds of things that you guys have done with the human rights organization. But in communities, we have lots of different social issues, and I'm wondering, and I have a real personal interest in hunger and homelessness and poverty, and I'm wondering if each of you could share with us if diaconia is doing anything in that regard. And let's start with Mark, because I know that's an issue that's very close to your heart.
Yes, and in fact, I began with diaconia while I was on the staff of Community United Methodist Church, and when I left the ministry of that church and went to Community Action Partnership, I thought, aha, I'm still going to go to diaconia. They haven't gotten rid of me. And they wouldn't. And so food is certainly, that's at the heart of my vocation right now. And one of our representatives, actually, was one of our representatives from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, was energized around my being a part of that group. And that particular faith group, he has kind of worked to try to get them active. He has worked with other local media to try to get people to plant gardens and bring some of their produce to us. So that's just one example of how my part related to hunger, and of course, Kathy has another slant of that her agency works with.
Go ahead, Kathy, because I know your agency has probably some very real needs that this organization and all of the churches that are represented may be able to assist with.
Well, our focus is, low-income people. We do have homeless shelters, and our main goal is to try and keep people from becoming homeless. So that's kind of our focus. And the church, various church groups have supported us throughout. We wouldn't exist if it weren't for the support of other church groups. And I think that it's just kind of an aware. We do a lot of awareness at our meetings. That we have different speakers come in, and so we try to address whatever problem is out there. And with the homeless issue, we have a lot of churches that have given us support.
I think that's wonderful that you're sitting on the board or involved in the organization, because you can bring those needs to their attention. Lidwin, tell us a little bit about the kinds of things that you're hoping to do in the future. I know you have a major project that we're going to talk about next week, but give us a little idea, maybe give us a little glimpse of what that project is, and maybe any other projects that you're hoping to become involved with.
Well, at the moment we are very much, of course, concerned about peace in general. So peace in our hearts and peace in the family and peace in the community and in the world. We have done a little bit about that because we had what is called the season the season of nonviolence. And a few years ago, we had a program like that. So we are actually looking forward in the future and say, this is what we will need to do. Peace is, I think, on our minds very much today. There are other needs in the community that we may be able to help. We sponsored the Festival of Lessons and Lessons and Carols, and that was a spiritual program during just before Christmas, and we thought we could do a lot in this way to help the people to center more, to focus on the real meaning of Christmas. So Mark has been involved a lot in that. And so these kind of things will always be needed in the near future. And then we'll have to see what else we can sponsor and where we can be actively involved. We have regularly speakers coming to our meetings to tell about a special need. And so we listen to them and see what we as a community can do.
We're just about out of time, but about 40 seconds, Mark, would you tell us, we have viewers in Canada and all over the Northwest, if a community was interested in this, what advice would you give them about starting such an organization as this one?
Well, roll up your sleeves, jump in, work together, and realize that it takes time, and but it's this kind of work that just draws us together. Very meaningful, needed work.
So like many things, it takes a lot of dedication and hard work, but the rewards are very extensive, as you've illustrated here today. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking with you today about peace in our hearts, homes, neighborhoods, nation, and world through an organization in our community known as Deaconia, and some of the people being here, including their director. We wish you well in your work in the future. And on next week's show, I know we have some other people from your organization that's going to be here to talk about a 3-month course, I guess you would call it. And we look forward to their appearance next week. And again, good luck to you, what you're doing, and we wish you all the best. Ladies and gentlemen, please be with us again next week at the same time, and we will continue with these other guests from this very outstanding organization. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
Recorded on the campus of North Idaho College, Public Forum is the longest-running in-house college production on PBS. Each episode is pre-recorded live and is an educational outreach from North Idaho College. Please join us at this same time next week for another edition of Public Forum on this public television station.